Hello! I just finished reading a book that I absolutely enjoyed, and I don't do this very often. I think I used to make book reviews back in the day when I first started, but then I sort of stopped doing it. But I kind of wanted to really talk about this one because I feel like it's one that a lot of people might know about the author, and they might know about this book, but I just feel like more people should read it. So the book I'm going to talk about today, you'll probably already see it in the title, but it's Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson. Now, I don't know, I'm gonna try and keep it really concise. I don't want to ramble too much at you about how much I love this book, but basically I'll tell you the synopsis. This is a book about our main character, Melinda. She is going to her first year of high school in the beginning of the book, and the whole book basically spans her first year of freshman year of high school, which I'm assuming is year 9 here in Australia, because I think it's mentioned that she's either 14 or 15, so that would be around about year 9 age. And it's told in little snippets, so they're not really diary entries, but she would have like a heading, and then she'll talk about that event that's happened. So we basically spend the whole time in her head, but you soon realize as you're reading that there's something that happened to her in the summer before she went into high school that she won't ever really talk about to anyone. As you can tell, the title is called Speak. So our main character doesn't really speak very often. She speaks a lot in her head, which is what you're reading, but she doesn't actually speak to the people around her. She doesn't speak to her parents. She no longer has the group of friends that she had in middle school, and that's also part of the mystery of what happened in this summer before high school. And it's just a really beautiful, powerful story. I don't want to say too much more than that. It is a story that's very character driven, so be prepared for that, I guess. So the first thing that I really liked about this book that I want to talk about is definitely the writing style. I don't really quite know how to explain it because I don't know how to explain a writing style that is very straightforward and clear, but also very vivid and poetic without it feeling flowery, if that makes sense. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that the types of poetry that I like are the ones that are very straightforward and raw and blunt, and this feels like that. Blunt is maybe not the right word for it, because obviously as you're reading this, you know that the main character is hiding something. Not so much hiding something from the reader, but she just like is hiding something from herself. Like there's something that she does not want to talk about. And I feel like the author did a really good job in using the right words to explain the right emotion without giving too much away, if that makes sense. Her writing style definitely reminds me of Daisy Johnson's. If you've read Sisters by her, I think that that's very similar, although Daisy Johnson is a little bit more poetic, is a little bit more lyrical feeling. This one is very, like, as I said, blunt. She also reminds me a little bit of Courtney Summers. If you've read Courtney Summers' earlier works, definitely feels like the same vibe. The second thing I really like about this book is the way certain topics are discussed. So without giving it too much away, we clearly know from reading the book, even though we don't know what actually happened, we know that this main character is going through some type of trauma and clearly some type of depression. But the way those topics are explored and showcased is is quite different to what I'm used to, and I really, really like it. It feels very real for a teenager to feel the way that she feels, and it feels very slow and like more of a build-up and more of a struggle, if that makes sense. Not to compare this book to any other books out there, but I have read quite a few books where the main character is depressed or going through trauma, and I feel like in those books it's always discussed in such a more intense, bigger level, whereas this one, it feels very muted. Like it feels very like it feels realistic to me, because it's, you know, she would have scenes where she's like she slowly just like loses her motivation, and she just like would mention every once in a while, she's like, oh, I should wash my hair, which implies that she hasn't washed her hair in a while. You know, it's like little like tidbits like that where you're like, that feels like realistic, I guess. The third thing that I want to talk about with this book that I really, really enjoyed is the characters. Now, as I mentioned, this is definitely a character-driven book, although there is a mystery and there is a plot that we're trying to find out. It's mostly about our main character, but I feel like the author did a really good job in not only rounding her out as a realistic feeling high school girl, but she also does that with the people around her as well. Like I feel like a lot of like high school-ish type books that I read where the main character is like no longer friends with the people that she used to be friends with, I feel like instantly those friends would be seen as the bad people. Whereas you can see, although we see, you know, we're in Melinda's head, and although we see that, you know, she's like, oh, so and so like hates me and stuff, you can also see by the events that happen and the actions that the people make, they're not completely evil. Like they feel like real high school people, and sometimes people in high school aren't very good at being a friend and it doesn't mean that they're like horrible people, it just means that they didn't know what was going on and they don't know what to do about the situation that's being brought up to them. Yeah, so those are the three things that I really like about this book. If you are interested in reading this book, definitely pick it up. If you read this book, let me know what you think down below. Also, I actually watched the movie adaptation for this book a long time ago. I didn't know it was a book until I found out about the author, basically, which was like a couple of years ago. And let me know if you've watched that movie, because I really like it. Although I feel like there's a couple of things that they cut out from the movie that's more in the book, I really like that movie. Let me know what you think if you watched it, because I find it so hard to find people that's actually watched that movie as well. It's one of my favorite movies. So yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this book review, and I'll see you in another video soon.